Hello friends! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and today I'm going to be talking about all the books I've given 5 stars in 2023 so far. So obviously I've been gone a while, and in that time, I still have been reading like an absolute fiend. So far in 2023, I have read 32 books. My goal is 130 books, so I'd say I'm doing pretty well with that progress so far, but that is simply too many books for me to go over in one video. And why would I tell you about the books I didn't enjoy as much when I can just focus on the positive and tell you guys the books that I really loved so far this year? So therefore, I decided to make this video sharing all of my 5-star reads from the year so far. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Also, just a disclaimer before we go into the books that I gave 5 stars this year, I am only counting new reads in this list. So if I did a reread and gave that 5 stars, I'm not counting that, just because I am doing a big reread of Throne of Glass this year. So a lot of those books I'm giving 5 stars, and I just feel like I've already given them 5 stars and me rereading them has just, kept the same rating, honestly. So I'm only sharing the new books I have read that I have loved so much to give 5 of those pretty stars. So let's go on with the video. The first book that I read in 2023 that I gave 5 stars to is Lessons in Chemistry by Bodyguard. Now, as many of you guys know, I like to buddy read literary fiction with my mom, so we read this one together and I adored it. I read it in 24 hours. It just absolutely consumed me, and everything about it I loved. This book follows Elizabeth Zott, who is a scientist living, I want to say in the 60s. She is a scientist living in the 60s where women weren't really given that many opportunities in the scientific research world. And so she discovers that she can actually bring her knowledge and her passion for science to the masses by hosting a cooking show where she teaches cooking through chemistry. Very bizarrely, I took a chemistry of cooking class in college. It was actually my science lab requirement at university, and literally we just learned about what chemistry goes into making food, and then we made food. It was the best class ever. We had something to eat almost every single day during class. It was great. Anyway, back to the book. I was absolutely drawn into this book and this male-dominated field that Elizabeth Zott is trying to push her way into. And something I really loved about this book is that it wasn't told chronologically. We flip back and forth to the past and the present, where Elizabeth has a daughter who only knows her mom as this like television personality, if you will, and not a scientist, which is what Elizabeth really wants to be. And we learn in the past how Elizabeth got on this cooking show, who she had her daughter with, and all of these trials that she's had to overcome in her life to get not where she wants to be, but where she just kind of like ended up. Because her goal in life wasn't to be on a cooking show, it was to be a scientist, to be someone in research. And she's kind of had to settle for this on-air series because that was the only way for her to practice science, because everywhere else was shutting the door in her face just because she was a woman. The story's so colorful and so funny at times. This is definitely a book where you get some drama, some emotional moments, some sadness, and laughter. So it's really the whole package here. And it's going to be, I believe, an Apple TV series with Brie Larson starring as Elizabeth Zott. So I'm super excited for that show to come out, and I just can't say enough good things about this book. It was the Barnes & Noble Book of the Year, so obviously a lot of people felt the same way. And if you want to give literary fiction a try, I highly recommend checking out Lessons in Chemistry. So the next book that I gave 5 stars to in 2023 is a Kindle Unlimited mafia romance book. I never give these books 5 stars. At most I give them 4, which is pretty high, but that's only because I really enjoy that genre. But I don't think I have ever given like a dark mafia romance anything above a 4-star, but this was a 5-star read for me, and that is Grieved Loss by Adelaide Forrest. It is the third book in the Belendi Crime Syndicate series. So there are 2 books before it focusing on other relationships within this mafia organization, and I don't know why, I just adored this book. Like, in my mind, I know that there are so many things wrong with me that I enjoyed this book so much, but quite honestly, I cannot bring myself to care. This book follows a girl named Calla who is raising these 2 kids after her husband was shot in a drug-related situation like a year prior. He was a cop and a drug dealer shot him, and she's left to raise these 2 kids. While all of that is happening, we also follow Riker, who is kind of like the enforcer of the Belendi Crime Syndicate. He is known for being very ruthless, and he met Calla like on a whim many years prior and just absolutely like fell in love with her. So he's kind of been stalking her ish for the past few years, and when her husband dies, first of all, through no fault of his, he did not kill the husband. That's what I thought at first. He did not kill the husband. And it's not a spoiler that I say that. Once Calla's husband dies, he decides to give her a year to grieve before introducing himself officially and kind of integrating himself into her life and her children's lives. So that is all kind of going on while the last 2 books are happening. And finally, in this book, Grieved's Loss, we have gotten to the year mark, so Riker decides to bring himself into Calla's life. And she is very resistant to it at first. He's very alpha male, possessive, you are mine kind of thing. And she's like, absolutely not. I got 2 kids. We're not doing this shit. And I don't know how, but something like magical happens where like slowly but surely, as much as she tries to resist, they end up forming this bond and this relationship. And I think it has to do a lot with how Riker is with her kids. There is nothing I like more in a romance book when the guy is sweet on kids. Like, it's beautiful. He could be a total alpha hole, possessive, big, strong man, and then just like is the sweetest with little children. I don't know, that like, it makes my heart warm and gooey. But he is so good with her kids, and slowly but surely he starts to win her trust and the trust of the people around her in her life. And it's just a really great story. There's obviously a lot more that happens, lots of other stuff happening with the mafia and the syndicate and the enemies that they have in the city or whatever. But really, I just loved how hard Riker worked to earn her trust. So at first he kind of bulldozes his way into her life, but then he kind of reassesses and tries a different way, and it's so beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. I feel like I've been talking about this specific book for a while, but I really enjoyed it. And if you are wanting to read a mafia romance series, I highly recommend the Belendi's Crime Syndicate series, because while not all the books for me have been 5 stars, a majority of them have been like 3.5 and up. So it's definitely a good one to start with, I think. So the next book we are going to talk about that I gave 5 stars to is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. This is the 3rd book and the final book in her Last Hours trilogy. It is a historical fantasy setting place within her Shadowhunters world, where we follow the Shadowhunters at the London Institute in, I want to say like 1800s. I don't know what year, but it's amazing and I loved it. This book damaged me mentally, and part of me thinks I will never recover from it, quite honestly. So that's fun. This book follows a whole host of characters that we've been following since the 1st book in the Last Hours trilogy, and there's lots of spoilers if I just start talking about this book, so I'm gonna do my best to keep it spoiler free, because you really should experience this as the books go on. So definitely, if you have not read Chain of Gold yet, pick it up. It is probably my favorite Shadowhunters trilogy thus far. The characters, the time period, the mystery, the darkness that's looming over the Shadowhunter world this time is just all so well done. And I've been told, I haven't read any Harry Potter Marauders fanfiction, even though I know it's a very big thing on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, but I've been told that Shadowhunters The Last Hour series, like the group of friends it centers on, is like perfect for people who love the Marauders in Harry Potter. So if you are a Marauders fan, chances are you're gonna like this book, even though I have never read any Marauders fanfiction Okay, I've gotten off track here. The plot of this book was definitely all over the place. It was like twisting and turning, but what else can you expect from a book that is literally like over 750 pages long? There was a lot going on, and I thought that it was formatted in a really great way where you're like, oh my god, this is the worst it can get, nothing is worse as this, and then like 2 pages later it's like, oh, here's something that's worse. But it worked for some reason, and it was just such a roller coaster to read this book. I really loved it. So definitely check out the entire series and any other Cassandra Clare books that you may want to pick up. But if you have read her books and didn't really love the Mortal Instruments series, trust me, this is better. This is the best. I think it's my top rated Shadowhunter series because I loved it that much. I feel like I keep flipping back and forth from fantasy to romance, so as is the pattern, we are now on romance, and my next favorite book, The Final Offer by Lauren Asher. Actually, it's just Final Offer. There's no the. Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is the 3rd book in her Dreamland Billionaire series. It follows 3 brothers. Names are Rowan, Declan, and Cal Kane. And they are essentially heirs to this multi-billion-dollar Disneyland-esque company. So it's called Dreamland, but it's definitely Disney inspired. And their grandfather created this company and all its parks and movies and such, but their grandfather has died. And in order for them to receive their share of the inheritance, they each have to complete a specific task that he has set out for them. So the previous 2 books were Rowan and Declan trying to complete their tasks in order to get the inheritance, but now Cal must complete his task so that all 3 of them can receive their inheritance, and it is beautiful. The first book is Grumpy Sunshine. The next book, I believe, is like arranged marriage type, forced marriage trope, and this one is Second Chance Friends to Lovers, and I adored it. In this book, Cal has to go to this sleepy vacation town that he and his family used to go to all the time when they were younger and sell his grandfather's house. But when he goes there to sell his house, who should he find there but his ex-girlfriend whose heart he broke, living in the house because his grandfather had given her 50% ownership of that house. So now Cal has to convince his ex-girlfriend to be willing to sell her home and the home that means so much to her. So much tension. It's so wonderful. And there's this added layer that Cal struggles with addiction, with drug and alcohol addiction, and that's something that we've known from the beginning of the series. And in this book, it's a really big catalyst as to why he and Alana broke up in the first place. So him having to finally confront those demons inside him that caused him to drink and do drugs is just a great aspect of this story. So many good moments, so many great longing and tension in this book. It's just the whole package, and this whole series is really super wonderful. Highly recommend it. So yeah, I loved this book so much, so definitely pick up the Dreamland Billionaires series. The 5th book that I gave 5 stars to in 2023 is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I got this in a fairy loot box of months past, I do not remember, and I am so happy I finally picked this up because it was beautiful. This is kind of like a dark gothic fantasy series where this kingdom, I guess. Is it a kingdom? It's like a kingdom slash town, and it's called Blunder, and it's been cursed by this dark mist for years and years and years. And the royal family knows that the only way to rid their kingdom, town, place of this dark mist that kills people is to unite all of these cards that contain magic that was given to their ruler long ago. So essentially, this book has a tarot card magic system, and depending on which card you possess, it gives you certain abilities, which I think is so cool. So anyway, back to the story. In this book specifically, we are following Elsbeth Spindle, who has a monster living inside of her. She accidentally touched one of these cards many years ago and somehow got this dark entity trapped inside of her who protects her, who talks to her sometimes, and she is trying to keep him a secret from from the rest of the kingdom, so they do not, you know, try to figure out why she has this creature living inside her, because you're only supposed to have a card if it's like been given to you by the king. So the type of magic that she has is kind of illegal. When she almost gets robbed by this highwayman on her way into the town of Blunder, she gets embroiled in this secret plot from the king to save their town once and for all, because there's a group of people who do not believe the king is doing enough to rid the town of their magic. So Elsbeth, now being discovered that she has some magic in her by these rebels, has been recruited by them to finally lift this dark spell. I kind of blacked out as I was giving that summary. I hope that would made sense. If it didn't, that's valid. I just really adored the atmosphere of this book, as well as the plot and the twist ending. I was just absolutely captivated by the world of Blunder and by the fantasy magic system. As I said before, like having magic based on tarot cards, that is brilliant. You just get so caught up with this rebel group and with Elsbeth and her desire to rid herself of this creature inside her, but she's also kind of like formed a bond with it over the years, so she wants it gone, but they also kind of have this frenemy-like relationship. And I just think it's an absolutely brilliant story from beginning to end. The plot is so creative. I love the characters, the side characters, everything about it. So if you are looking for a dark gothic fantasy to read at any point throughout the year, then highly recommend One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Final book that I have given 5 stars to. The final book that I gave 5 stars to in 2023 is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. In this book, we follow Hannah, who is a bodyguard, and she is assigned to protect Jack, who is like a major movie star from a crazed stalker. However, Jack doesn't want his family to know that he has a bodyguard, and he doesn't want them to know that he's in any danger at all, because his relationship with his family is already rocky from him being so famous. So when he has to go home in order to see his family and his sick mother, he does have to bring Hannah as protection, but because they can't know that he's in danger, Hannah and Jack come up with this idea that they'll say they're dating. And as we all know with fake relationships in romance books, they always lead to more. So it is just this fabulous book. It is told in Hannah's perspective, and Hannah is such a funny narrator. She often breaks the fourth wall of the book to talk directly to the reader, which I really enjoyed and just made the book that more entertaining. I also love how Catherine Center kind of inverted the bodyguard protectee trope. Like, I feel like that's a really common one in romance, but usually the guy is the bodyguard and the girl is the superstar, model, socialite, whatever, who needs the bodyguard. So to have that flipped in this book was really cool. And it was just such an entertaining read. I was laughing the whole way through. It was just so much fun. And I like fake dating. It's one of those tropes I genuinely enjoy. So seeing it done in this specific way was really great. So yeah, I loved The Bodyguard, and I highly recommend it to all those who need a good laugh and need a good romance. And those are all the books that I've given 5 stars to so far in 2023. I feel like 6 out of 32 isn't horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. I feel like it's been a very 4-star, 3.5-star year for me, but you know, I have a lot more books to go before the end of the year, and if my goal is 130 and I'm only on 32, I still got 100 more books to read at least, so there's definitely going to be some winners in there, but just for the year so far, those have been my favorites. Let me know down in the comments what was the last book that you rated 5 stars. If you guys liked this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Hit the notification bell to get updates on when I post. I hope to post again very soon, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!